ready to get started. It is day 6 of this Revenue Disruptor Estimating Pro course. And today we are focused on talking about On Screen Takeoff. On Screen Takeoff is a software that we use to do virtual takeoffs. So if you never learn how to do this, this is the second part of this class that we are teaching this piece of the software, this piece of estimating. So if in case you missed our 5 days, you want to make sure you get access to that. So send us an email or go to our link at pmdy.link/estimating, and you can get access to the 5-day course. I'm excited because those that have attended the 5 days say, hey, we want more. We want more. So that's awesome. And so we'll continue to make sure you all get more, to make sure you are ready to learn. And so just for a brief pause for the cause, to let those know that are on here for the first time, that I have been estimating since 1997/98 after I graduated from the University of Florida in construction management. And so I've been doing estimating for a very, very long time. I started with On Screen Takeoff, which is a product of On Center software. I started with them as they were entering 98 and 99. So I've been using the software for nearly 26 years now. So I'm very, very familiar with that software. I've used other softwares. However, this is just my preference. It is a little bit more expensive than some softwares that are out there for takeoff specifically. Now, I'll just say this real quick to make sure you understand. There's a difference between quantity survey vis-a-vis quantity takeoff and estimating or pricing. So we have two sides of this. We have where we're doing the quantities. We're trying to gather all the quantities, whether it's linear footage, square footage, lump sums, cubic yards, whatever those quantities or units of measures are. We use specific software to do the takeoff, and then we convert that takeoff information into pricing. And so we use, unit square foot numbers, unit linear foot numbers, unit pricing in order to get the final total price, okay? And so today we're just going to do this for a second time. So again, those of you that are on here for the first time, this may be your first time seeing this. And so if you have questions, please come off mute. I have a hard time with all this technology I have reading the chat, okay? I have like a TV, a monitor, a laptop, and a video switcher. So it's hard to do all of this and read the chat. So please, if you would, come off mute. Let me know if you have a question. All right, you have to come off mute if you have a question, and I'll feel free to answer your question. All right, so we want to start with on-screen takeoff. And first of all, let me put this on the screen. On-center takeoff is the company. On Center Software is the company. It's also now has been purchased by Construct Connect. All right, and so if you type in any type of search engine, On Center Takeoff or On Center Software, you can come to this landing page where you can actually type in your information to get a free trial for the software. So that's pretty cool that you're able to do that. So we want to make sure, if you haven't already, you can try. I'm not sure how long the turnaround is. Were you able to get yours, Doc? Did they send you a link?
I did it. I started yesterday and did it again this morning, but
Okay.
they don't send you. I think you. I think it's probably their office hours. They're closed on the weekend anyway. So
Right.
I think somebody's gonna reach out to you on Monday.
Monday.
And then through that conversation, give you a demo plus the access.
Right.
Because I have done it once before.
Okay.
So I think that's how it goes.
Okay. No worries. All right. Ebony, are you in the same case, same boat, or? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so please let me know. We'll touch base on Monday, and we'll make sure you all get that. So what we'll do, we'll continue on. I know the feedback that I received was, hey, we really want to kind of go through takeoff again, and what we could do is just use a residential property this time. That will make it a lot faster as well to go through some takeoff items. And so anyone want to make a recommendation for what to take off? So we're going to use your residential home, Dr. Fidel. I have both of them loaded. Do you want to do 2806 or 2810? Doesn't matter. You're muted.
2810.
2810. All right. So here's the screen. So I know this may be small. Stretch your screen, enlarge it as much as possible. Here's the on center or on screen takeoff software. Normally when you create a new file, you're just going to go to File, New, Bid. All right. File, New, Bid. If you want to create different types of job statuses, you can create those here. Normally it does not have anything in there. So for instance, right now it has these that are already in the system: bidding, pending, sold, closed. So you can actually use this as a database to house whether or not you completed a project, you was awarded a project, or you lost it. So you can actually use this to have a report to go through in your weekly meetings if you have a team. Of course, the project name, the bid number, job number really doesn't matter if you want to track that or not. And then if you have different estimators in your company that may use this software and this project, work on this project at the same time, you can actually create a name in there as well. Okay, so if you don't,
I'm sorry to cut you. When you started, you said it was new bid. What were the other options other than bid to get to this screen?
all right, go back to new alternate change order.
Okay, got it.
In most, in almost all cases, you're going to just go to bid.
Okay.
So the other alternate and change orders, let's say you had alternate pricing that you still wanted to connect to your estimate platform and you did not want it to be included in the base bid, you can actually separate your takeoff, which is a pretty cool feature. Same way with any change orders. So later on, let's say you receive the contract 2 months later after the job starts, maybe you receive the updated drawing. That's where I believe it was in day 3. I talked about how you can do an overlay and it'll actually show what has changed. Okay, so you would use the change order feature for that. But for today, we're using bid just to start a new takeoff. You can type any notes in there that you want. I know, Ebony, you had a question in regards to how does this tie into the estimate. And so you'll notice this note here, it says price using. You use the drop down arrow and it says worksheet tab. Worksheet tab is basically using the on screen platform. All right, the on screen platform. And so let me just show you that. So if we want to use the worksheet tab, the on screen platform is going to be this tab up here where it says worksheet. And so every time we do a takeoff item, it will drop down in this worksheet and we can actually put unit prices right here inside of this worksheet. So if we want to actually start pricing the job from this worksheet, we can actually do it here. Okay, so that is an alternative method. Some people use it, some people don't. I prefer to export my quantities and use Excel. but this operates similar to Excel, so you can use this. Okay. So we have these tabs at the top. The bids tab show you all the bids you're working on or have worked on. The image is where you start doing your takeoff. The takeoff tab is exactly what it says. It'll show us what we have taken off. And then the worksheet is where we can actually put unit pricing numbers on things. Okay. So let's go back to bid. We're doing a new bid. So you have to decide, will we use the worksheet tab? Normally, if you're going to export this to Excel, just use worksheet tab. I wouldn't fool with trying to tie it into Excel because sometimes it glitches. So just use worksheet tab. If you want to use their pricing software, so this is a separate purchase for their sister software, QuickBid. If you want it to update automatically as you're doing takeoff, you want to do interactive. If you don't want it to update automatically and you want to manually update it, you'll go to manual. Okay? And that's just really a preference thing. Of course, you can put the bid date, bid time. All right, and then down here, this section, this is where you load the drawings. The easiest way to load the drawings is to actually place all the drawings in one folder and do not include any other files in that folder. All the drawings in that one folder. It can be one PDF. If it is, you will click this folder where it says insert. So for instance, here's a folder that I have the drawing examples that I was using for class. If I click this, because it's in this entire folder, and I click this folder download, it's going to actually download every file in this folder. So that's why you want to only drop that one file in the folder, because it's going to pick up everything. Now, if you want to do page by page, you would use just the blue arrow. But that's too time consuming, right? So let's say your drawing set has 50 pages. You just want to make sure that one file is in the folder, and you just click this download here. That's the best thing. If you want to duplicate a page, sometimes you may need to like do additional takeoff and it's starting to get too much takeoff on one sheet, but you have more takeoff to do. Just duplicate it. That's pretty cool feature, especially when you have so many layers and colorings and all that, and you still need to do more takeoff on that same page. Just duplicate the page. Auto name, I don't really use this a lot, but you can try using it and see if it'll pull up the correct naming. So you can try that as well. The last thing I also talked about on day 2, when we were talking about earlier, the change order feature. If you ever want to overlay images, you will have the original file. You will click this little magnifying lens right here, glass right here, for your original file, which it should already be there. And then if you had a change order drawing, it must be scaled the same. It must be scaled the same, but you can actually pull that file in by using this magnifying glass, and then it will overlay those images. Okay, I'm just telling you about that. You won't use it that often, but it's available for you. And I'm sure they have a YouTube feature that'll teach you more about that. So once you have all those files pulled over, it's going to propagate all the drawing files, and then it's going to drop down your new project. Okay, if you ever need to go back to that menu, just click cover sheet up here, cover sheet. And cover sheet, now you can see this project. You can see I'm pricing using QuickBid. I have all the drawings already pulled in. You see here in the image file, it's already pulled in here. If I ever want to overlay, I would just click here and it's going to ask me where's the overlay drawing. All right, but we don't have that, so we won't do it here. Okay. The last feature of this is if you do receive the revised drawing and have an overlay, you can actually pick which one. So if you want to show the revised file by itself, you can click overlay. If you want them to actually overlay, you're going to say show both. And this is where anything that's not there anymore will show up red, and anything that was added will show up blue. Okay. All right. So we're going to say okay. Now we're going to click on the image tab. And Doc said he wanted to do, this is 2806, I believe. Yep. So we're going to go down to 2810. All right. Anybody have any questions so far?
Is this a spec though?
Doc, I don't know. I think this is, I'm not sure how they came up with this. Do you know? You're muted, Doc.
I'm sorry. This is a permanent set.
Yeah, do you know if this was like already like drawings that was already available, or did they have this like custom design for their property?
I think it was custom designed for the property.
Okay. So we have these drawings, and we can just kind of flip through real quick. So here's the site plan. And class, what's the first thing we do when we get ready to do takeoff?
The plans?
Okay, what's the second thing?
Scale.
Scale.
Check the scale.
Yeah, we go. All right. So, how about this? Let's start with the site plan. Okay, so as we're looking at this, we want to go ahead and check the cell. It says 1/8 inch equals a foot. Our scale up here says 1/8 inch equals a foot, so we should just be able to check that dimension to see if it's true. We do have a dimension here, so let's check that and see if it's 33 feet. Yep, it's 33 feet. So always use this dimensioning tool to just double check your footages. Let's check this 5 foot. It should be accurate. Yep. It's pretty close. When you see it that close, most likely it is. The more you zoom in, the more accurate you can actually get to the line when you zoom in more. So sometimes it may be off. See how I zoomed in and it automatically changed to 5? So sometimes that happens when you zoomed out too far. All right, so let's start reading some of this. So we're on Northwest 9th Street, and we have an existing partway. So this is a street here. They asking for a 6-inch thick concrete slab, contour swell, 3,000 psi, no mesh. I would anticipate, based on these drawings, it looks like this would be a sidewalk. It's kind of hard to tell, but it says existing 4.6. Yeah. So it looks like that would be existing. I wish they would have not colored it that way. They should have differentiated that from the existing apron.
I have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
Since there's so much going on each page, do you have like a checklist or anything that keeps everything in order, like making sure you checked for everything, or a starting point? Because
I don't.
so much.
No, I don't. So And the reason why I don't is because every job is so different. Um, yeah, I really don't. I think your best bet is really, you can create a template. It's kind of like, for instance, I shared with you all my estimate file where I have all my general conditions, right? Well, you can kind of say, well, do I need to have dumpsters? Do I need to have a surveyor? Do I need to have, X, Y, Z? So you can create a typical list with those types of items, and then kind of say, hey, do I need this on this job? With the other scope that goes into the land or the building, you can kind of do that, but maybe I would do that maybe for like a residential property, or once you start doing things over and over again. So, for example, Ebony, the hotel you're working on, right? Once you have gone through the drawings and you scrubbed it once, most likely almost every hotel you do from that point on is going to have the same similar type of items. But when you're going from like a property like this to a hotel to something different, so every market is going to be nuanced. So yeah, it's kind of hard to do that. And then for me, it's just really about reading the drawings. So a habit that I used to have before we did digital, we actually highlighted and marked off every note. So you can make that a best practice to kind of confirm that you read a note, that you incorporated it in the takeoff. If it was necessary, you can just mark it. So an example of something like that would be, let's say, for instance, this note here, you can just come in here and just kind of highlight that or something like that. You can always do whatever you want to kind of use that as a check to make sure you're going through. And I think when I first started estimating, I had to do that more, to your point, because you're just not accustomed to catching everything, right? Your eyes are really, really new of really seeing what's there. So that's what I would recommend. So we have this 6-inch concrete slab. So let's go ahead and create that item. Where's my takeoff? So when we close the conditions window, that's our takeoff here. So I had closed it so you all can see more. So you have to go back in there and open it. So now I'm going to create a new condition by hitting this plus button. So how should we take off a concrete slab? Are we going to use, which one are we going to use to take off? Huh?
Cubic feet.
Okay, we want to take it off in cubic feet, but to actually do the quantity survey, we need to do area. And then we're going to have the thickness, and the thickness of the slab is what?
6 inches.
6 inches. There we go. So now I have 6 inches. Now I'm going to change my quantity. I still have my area, but I'm going to change my quantity to volume. And then it'll default to cubic feet, but I'll change it to cubic yards. The other rule of thumb when you're doing concrete, especially slabs, you also want to check the perimeter. So if you want to actually determine how much edge forms you need, you can do that as well. It's not always necessary. It depends on the level of quantities or information you need. But that's the rule of thumb. I usually also include the perimeter. Then I'm going to name it 6-inch concrete slab, and this is the driveway. So I'm going to name it. So in the notes, I'm going to put the more detailed, like 3,000 PSI concrete, no mesh, which is weird, but whatever. I would think it would at least have some kind of mesh or fiber mesh or something. All right. So we know our scale is correct. So because I'm concerned about this sidewalk, I would actually do a Google Earth image to actually see what this looks like. So that's a good rule of thumb. What's the address here? I'm gonna show you all exactly what I do. So this is 2810 Northwest 9th Court, Fort Lauderdale. So I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna go into Google Maps and I'm gonna type 2810 Northwest. What was it? 9th Court, Fort Lauderdale. 9th Court, Fort Lauderdale. And this is always something good to do if you are on an existing property, existing site. It's always good to just take a look at what you're trying to take off. And we see there's a way to see what date this is on these drawings, but it says imagery 2025 down here at the bottom. Because sometimes they may use an old image. But right now it looks like that image is current. So we see it's a vacant lot. So I want to see what's on the lot. Here's something else to note. Let's say these trees are still there, but it's not on the drawing. What are we going to do?
RFI.
Exactly. So normally, especially in the traditional route, we're going to send an RFI if these trees are not shown. Hey, or we do a site visit, confirm they're there or not. Also, we're going to actually determine if this soil is flat and if we show any elevations on the drawings for a building pad or a house pad. So we'll look for those as well, but I always come check this. You can see even these meters are out here in the street and they show them on the drawings. But look where this set of meters are compared to where it showed on the drawings. I can't zoom in anymore, but it looks like these meters are over here compared to in the drawing. They showing the existing meters right here at the slab. Well, it may be right. So it looks like this. Okay, it looks like it may be right. It looks like this actual driveway is tight up against the property line. So it's probably right. So we have to ask ourselves, will we damage any of this existing curb or sidewalk where we may need to price that? Or you can carry a contingency for it. That makes sense to you all?
Yes.
Okay. So those are the
What would you do contingency? You would do a different takeoff for that?
No, I would just probably put a number on it, like just to you could do a takeoff and just say, hey, let's say for instance we do figure, hey, we're going to be driving in, we're going to have subs driving in and out. Maybe I do go ahead and take this off and say, hey, in case we have to repair this, how much square footage would it possibly be? And so it's about 74 square feet, a yard of concrete. Okay. So then I would just price that and maybe use it as a contingency number. So you can do it that way as well. Me, I may say, I may need like $500 or $1,000 just in case something happens here. All right. What I love about On Screen Takeoff, I can move this, and I can actually realign these corners. So any corner, you can hover over it and tell it which way you want to pull it. So you can actually pull these corners in different directions. I'm going to just spread this out just like this. Come up against the house. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. It looks like I'm off over here on this side. So what I can do, I can hover over this and press shift at the same time while I'm moving it and move it over. That's pretty cool or what? So I can, if I want to be really, really precise, again, I'm hovering over this corner, I press shift, and I use my mouse and hover over it again if I want to be really precise. Right, so now I have 8 cubic yards of that driveway. So it looks like we also have this. What's going on?
Yeah, because the sidewalk and the driveway seem like they're different thicknesses.
Yeah.
We would have to create a different element for the driveway as
Yep.
opposed to the sidewalk.
There you go, my man. All right, and it has mesh in it, which makes me feel a lot more comfortable. Okay, so we're gonna right click. You can duplicate and reassign it, which I like. And reassign means I'm making it something else or renaming it. So here we're gonna call this the 4-inch, and we're gonna change the thickness to 4, right? And so this is, they don't tell us the PSI. So we can make an option. We either gonna RFI it or we're gonna make an assumption. And if we make an assumption, we're placing it in our clarifications on our proposal. We're assuming this is also 3,000 PSI because you don't tell us. All right, so this one has 6x6 mesh, which makes more sense. So I'm like, everybody have mesh in their driveway. If not, it's gonna break up. Okay, so we're gonna do that. So we just changed that, real simple, and we have it in the right category now. We're gonna go back and pull our 6-inch, and we're just gonna go ahead and just take some of it off anyway. We're just gonna take it off anyway. Now let's say you have an angle like this. What I'm doing, I'm holding the shift key down so I can move it around wherever that corner is, wherever I want. I'm just holding the shift key. If I don't hold the shift key, it's going to kind of snap based on certain angles. It's not going to move exactly where I want, but that's it. Okay. Now they don't tell us about the sidewalk and the step, but let's make an assumption that we're going to do 4-inch concrete, and it's going to be sidewalk. Most sidewalks don't have mesh in it. So now we're going to try to zoom in. I can't really, it looks like this the line. It's so hard to see. Let me just pull it from here. We're going to stop at the steps. Now, the next thing with these steps, we don't know if they're precast or poured in place. Precast means poured and made off-site, and we're just going to deliver precast steps here, or we're going to pour this in place. I don't know. So there's a couple things you can do. You can kind of try to measure it. Say that again.
Wouldn't that be on the drawings?
It should be. What we can try to do is say, hey, let's go to the structural sheets and see if it shows up there. So before I go there, I'm gonna go ahead, right click, and rename this page so I always know how to get back to it. This is SP1, and that is site plan. I'm gonna say okay. Let's see what this other note says down here. Surrounded by condensing unit pad elevation to match interior finished floor elevation, surrounded by shrubs. Okay, so let's try a different sheet. Let's see. Well, these lines kind of freak me out a little bit. I'm not sure what these lines supposed to mean. See these lines in between here? It's almost like,
Those are separate ads.
yeah, but that's very weird. For like if these were pavers and you was trying to do some type of architectural feature, that makes sense. But for a driveway like this, it's weird. So again, class, this is where we send in an RFI.
And on this particular RFI you would send out, you would kind of bubble circle that with those red lines.
Absolutely.
Write a question.
Absolutely. Yes, please. Is exactly perfect. Boy, you all are learning fast. So here's where the architect protects themselves. Sidewalk will be replaced along driveway improvement area with 6-inch thick concrete if broken, depressed, or less than 6-inch thick per. I don't know. I have to go look up what that means. CNMB detail. What? Okay, cool. All right. So
In order to highlight something on the sheet for clarification, do you have to create another sheet for that than what you're using your takeoff?
so what we showed earlier this week, we showed doing like using the snipping tool feature. So I use snipping tool, or you can use print screen from your keyboard. I use snipping tool. So what I would do, I would say new. So right now you see how it hovers over my page, and then I would just grab this and grab enough detail where you can actually see everything and see how it pulls it. I can either use it, mark it up here, or I can save this as an image and pull it up in Adobe. So normally I pull it up in Adobe, but let's say this is good enough. So you can maybe say highlight this area or something like this, you know. This kind of messy because my mouse is weird, but you can kind of just do something like that, you know, and then type notes on it, or you can just do it more professionally in Adobe, where you can actually use call out tools to actually do that in Adobe. Do you all need to see me do that?
No.
Okay. I got one no. Everybody else is just quiet.
No.
Okay. All right, cool. So then I will save this as an image wherever I want to save it, and then pull it up in Adobe. All right, cool. So that's how I do that. All right, let's keep going because we're looking for these steps. So here's the architectural sheets. Let's see if anything is on here about these steps. Railing by others. They give us a finished floor. They tell us the dimensions of the steps, which is weird. You only have six by six step. So I don't see anything about those steps yet. Well, here's the thing. One thing I think is interesting. Remember, earlier this week we were talking about reading elevations, and I know Doc, you was having some questions about, you know, actual exterior elevations versus floor elevations, meaning height. Look at this. Now, this is something you'll have to get used to. Sometimes the engineer will show the finished floor at 0, and sometimes it will say 100, and sometimes it will say the actual elevation, like let's say it's 106.5. What you have to do is decide, okay, where is everything else then? And normally when they use 0 or 100, that's the baseline. That means this is the starting point. So what they did, you'll see as we go through these steps, they said -6. So what they shown, which is weird, which is to me, you have an 88 issue right here, in my opinion. I don't know how they do it in Fort Lauderdale, but how you have a 6-inch step up coming right off of out the front door? That would be immediate RFI, in my opinion. Um, yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. But um, but then they have, so you have a 6-inch drop off step right here, which seems like it's too much, but whatever. Let's say it's legit. Then you have another 6 inches. So when you get here, you're a foot down lower. Another 6, another 6. That's 2. So you're 2.5 feet down to the top of the sidewalk already. So let's say the sidewalk is at grade, meaning it's level. We know that we have to raise this pad up at least 2 feet. 2 feet, and let's say it's a 4-inch slab, 2 feet 2 inches. So that means the top of the dirt is 2 feet 2 inches above this ground elevation at a minimum. And that's without having the details, but these are just tools that we're, picking up on just by looking at the drawings. All right, let's keep looking, see if we find anything structural that helps us. This is another A sheet. Let me keep going. So sometimes these drawings, it may take a minute to render and to advance. So the better your computer, the faster this will go. All right, so here we are on our structural sheet. So they give us a foundation plan. They're just telling us you have a turn down edge here. They're showing this 6-inch. So this is the top of that first landing, but they don't show the rest of it. Great, guys. Thank you. Same here. So hopefully they have a schedule that tells us what TE, and that's usually a turn down edge. And it's saying 8, so it makes me think it's turned down 8 inches, but that just doesn't seem right unless they're making the stairs out of block, and then you have a landing that's cast in place concrete. But we'll have to look for more details to see if they show that, but that's what I'm reading so far. Hopefully they give us a detail. TE. Okay, here it is. So here's the schedule up here. So they're telling us what type of footing it is. So this is a turn down edge. It's telling us how wide. So what they're doing is they're just taking this section here, right? Because the rest of this will be the landing. They're taking this section here and calling this the 8 feet, the 8 inches, I mean. And it's continuous around. And they have this one number 5 rebar all the way around. So I'm going to show you all how I would take that off. So I would separate this portion of the turnout edge and call that the TE footing, and the rest of this will just be a slab. Most likely this is sitting on block or either cast in place concrete. You probably could build it either way, but they're not really showing us. Since we're already here, what's going on with this? I don't know where this is. You have a 50-inch column pier. Oh, this must be in the back. I think, isn't it a covered patio back there somewhere? Okay, we'll find this later. I won't focus on that too much because this, I don't think that's with the house. So basically, this, if you ever have to take off concrete in structural drawings, they'll always have a footing schedule to tell you how wide it is, how deep it is. Normally, somewhere it has to tell you not only the depth of the actual footing itself, meaning how, not only just how deep this side is, but how far under dirt it is, meaning up above the floor. They need to tell you how deep down to dig for it to be. So normally they'll tell you that as well somewhere, because you have to price how much dirt you got to dig out of there and put back. So these, they have 3 different types of footings. So this MF is probably what they call a monolithic footing. Is one big mat, and that's probably usually it's holding up some kind of big structure, but we'll find it. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that piece though, but we'll find it. So we always want to check these different details, how connections are made, corner reinforcing if we need that. So if you want to take, like, you know, the detail of the trusses off, you could, or you can just square foot it. It just depends on what you need. You have to decide that based on your position. Are you a sub? Are you the GC? Like, what do you really need to know?
This is slightly off topic, but since you mentioned trusses, I think you said, how would you take off trusses?
So I just take them off by square foot. Some people, like, if you are an installer, you may have to, you know, figure like how many pieces of trusses you have, because you may figure out your production by how many trusses you can actually set in an hour. You follow what I'm saying? But if you're not installing it, then I would just take them off by square foot. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
This is structural detail. Alright, so let's go in here and let me just show you how to do this since we're already back here. So here's that monolithic footing, which just basically means we're gonna pour all this at one time. So let me open this other view so I can see both of them. So what we talked about was it's 42 inches wide, 18 inches deep. So I'm going to create a new condition. I'm going to call this footing, concrete footing F1. I should have placed all of these in a CSI division, but I'm gonna do it now. So footing 1, the depth is 12 inches. and it is a 3x3. So this is going to be a count item because it's not continuous. So it's going to be 12 inches deep. The width is 3 foot. So because we have this figuring as a square, that means it's going to make each side 3 foot. If we did rectangle, it's going to add the depth. So if it was like a 3x5, then we could put 5 feet. But since it's a square, it goes back to just 3 because it's 3x3. You all see that? Okay, so we're going to do how many account. Then we want to know the volume because we're doing concrete. The other item I would put in here, I would say excavate whatever. I'm not sure what it is, but let's just guess and say we're going to excavate 4 foot. So I can actually figure out how much cubic foot of dirt, and I can actually pull, just use a note and create another item for that in my estimate. But I have the count already. I just have to do the math. So I'm going to do that there. I'm going to create one more, and I'm going to call it MF42. And this is continuous. So since it's continuous, we're not doing a count, we're doing a linear footage of it. The height is what, y'all? What's the height? We're MF, yep, 18. Andrea, you with me? All right. Height is 18, and how wide is it? 42. I may have this backwards, but whatever. We can flip it around. We'll see. I always get messed. I get them twisted sometimes when they do this. But anyway, we're going to do the volume, cubic footage. And since I already have a cayenne colored takeoff somewhere else, I'm going to just do something different. I'm going to make it a different color. Let's make it orange. And then if you want the surface area both sides, you can do that. So now, let's shrink this. Now let's check the scale again. See, this one says a fourth. This is why you always have to check the scale, y'all. So let's check and see if, let's see, I'm on an 1/8 scale. Let's see if it's a 4th. Yep. Boom. Always have to check your scale. Now I'm going to start in the center of that footing. Uh-oh. So when that happens, you have to go in here to Tools and click Continuous Mode. So what happens is, when you do a linear takeoff initially, it'll say click once and then drag and then click twice, and that will be one segment, one takeoff segment. Well, when you want to click and keep going, you want to do continuous mode, and you almost always want to do continuous mode. So I can just click here once and I don't have to hold it down, okay? So you see how wide that is now? It's wider than the drawing shows, so that lets me know I have this flip-flop. So this should be 306 and this should be 18. Let's see. Boom. All right. Now you got a little piece right here that's going to overlap. I'm not going to care about that little bit of overlap too much. Yeah, it's still not fitting on there, right? Let's keep going. I think I'm not sure this drawn correctly, but whatever. All right, let's keep going. Now notice, if I pull this quantity all the way down to here, I'm not going to start over here. I'm going to start on the inside. So you try to not have as much overlap. Why? Because you just added additional material. I think they drew this one wrong because it's wider than everything else. What doesn't make sense. Okay. So we have 4-inch slab reinforced with 6-inch welded 1.4 mesh on vapor barrier. So we could have used this similar one, but it's really different because the mesh type is different. And I want to designate, hey, this is not the driveway, this is actually the house. So I add those additional notes, and I'm going to do Division 3 concrete. And so it's already a different color, so that should be good. So now, where do I do my takeoff for this slab? Am I taking it off over to the edge, or am I taking it from the end of it? Like, where should I take it off? Where do you all imagine I should take it off?
The interior?
Yeah. Anybody want to guess?
Not the edge.
Okay, so let's verify. How do we verify? We need a cross section to see how this is built, because it's not always the same. Every house, every building is built different, and it's based on how the engineer designed it. So we need to look on the section, and we're going to be looking to the south, right, Doc? We're going to look to the south based on where the arrowhead is pointing. So we're looking at section 3 on sheet S2. So I'm going to pull up S2, and we're looking at section 3. At least that's what it said. This says 3. Okay, now I see what they're doing. Now that I'm able to look at this. So what we have is they built part of this up with block, so it's like a stem wall. They built up part of this up with stem wall on top of these big footings, which we need to go look for, but they built the stem wall, but they have the slab stopping at the inside. So we won't take the slab all the way to the edge. Make sense? Now if this line came all the way across and over, and there was no expansion joint, then we knew they ran the slab to the edge, but they didn't. At least not in this detail. Right? So this is the same detail. We're looking at the same detail. This is 3 on S2 as this one.
Got it. So it's basically giving us a cross section through that line.
Yep.
Finishes with the flag to tell us we're going through this area. And
Yep.
everything that it goes through is going to pertain to this note.
Correct.
Right. However, the vapor barrier and the dirt per se, that's not necessarily what's on this note. It was someplace else.
Yeah, it was on the actual structural floor plan. Correct. So what I would do is that vapor barrier, right, is going to be here
Uh-huh.
and the soil poisoning, and then you're gonna have dirt field all up in here.
So when you're creating your element for this interior, right? Are you creating the element for the vapor barrier
I
or
don't.
for the concrete or
Yeah, I don't. I what I do, I take it all off because it's going to be the same quantity. So this is where I figure it's like an assembly, just like when we did the drywall, where we had the drywall, the framing, the insulation, caulk, texture. It's all part of the same quantity, so I shouldn't need to take it off again. That is the advantage of these types of things. I'm going to build an assembly and put it all in one, or I can just copy and paste, right? So for instance, for this slab, now that we know it goes to the inside of the wall, I'm going to put down here, add vapor barrier. We need to know the millage though.
I'm
So,
not seeing this right now.
right, I don't know if it's 6 or 10 or whatever. We need to add it. Then I say add soil poisoning.
We're not say coach, we're not seeing your screen right now. There you
Just looking at my ugly self. All right, so I'm just gonna add these notes, add vapor barrier, and figure out, hey, what's the millage? I need to find that out, and then add soil poisoning. So when I create this in my estimate or Excel or whatever, then I'm just going to use the same quantity, right? Because it's the same square footage. We already have the area. So I'm gonna zoom back out. I'm gonna start from the inside corner since we know we have to be on the inside of the wall, stem wall. Now, because of this note, the number 4 by 5 foot with 10-foot hook, those hooks are tying back into the stem wall. So we would have to take that off separate. That's still if we were actually pricing all the rebar ourselves, then we would need to do that. But to me, if I'm not pricing the rebar, then why am I doing that? I'm just gonna try to make sure I have the right square footage. That's again, that goes back to detail. You have to figure out how much detail do you really need. Do you really need to take off the rebar, or do you just need general square footage of the slab? So we have both of these areas are the same, so we have to take off this as well. I'm still looking for them pad footings. I must be overlooking it.
You're talking about the 3 foot by 3 foot ones?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Oh, there it is. F1. So here's my F1. I see them now. Now look what's interesting. I know we did 3 by 3. You see how much bigger that is? So that's why I go double check. Yeah, we got 3 foot. That means
Where did you change the scale for this particular page?
up here.
So that saves for that one page?
Yes. Anytime you change it, automatically saves. Yeah, so I know I'm right. So the architect didn't draw this right.
I actually don't even see the F1.
Yeah, it's hard to see.
Okay. Okay, I see it now. Got it.
So sometimes you'll catch drawing mistakes like that. But you have to go by the schedule. What's right, the plan or the schedule? The schedule. Right? The schedule is just like a spec. You have to do what they say. All right, let's see. Do we see F1 anywhere else? There's another one.
What do you think these F1s are for? Why do you think they're distinct and different?
It looks like they're building a what they call like a column. So you see how? Let me zoom. See if I can zoom in. So you see how these three cells have this dot in it? That's a symbol for a vertical rebar. And they're probably going to pour all of these cells because they want to kind of mimic like a concrete column. They want this to be solid. And I can only assume there's some additional weight that needs to bear at these locations. I can only make that assumption. You always have that condition at the corners, but you see they normally space it every, almost 4 feet. They will space where they have a poured cell, right? So that's what that's showing you. They have poured cells all the way around here, but for some reason, I'm not sure. We will have to look at the roof plan to see why they need. Yep. That looks like that's all of them though. So, if I was a mason, I would be doing a separate takeoff on each one of these vertical pour cells. But I'm not a mason. I'm just wanting the square footage of the stem wall, square footage of the perimeter wall. That's all I care about as a GC. If I was the mason, it would be different. Say that again.
Why wouldn't you want that information as a GC?
What's the likelihood that the mason is going to leave that out? And I need that quantity.
So you're building an estimate for the job, right? Before getting
correct,
the number?
correct. But I can cover. So let's take drywall because it's really easy for me to talk through. If I'm able to price how much a wall costs per square foot, why do I need the number of screws? Why do I need to know how many rows of tape? I really don't. Unless, here's the caveat, unless I'm providing all the materials and I have a labor sub, then I need to know all that. So, case in point, if I'm providing all the materials for the CMU, the block, and the rebar, then yes, I would need to take all of it off. But if I'm going to sub everything out, say, hey, Mason, pick up the material and labor, then I really just need the square footage so I can just assure they have the right quantity. I don't need to ask them, well, how much rebar? Did you pick up all the rebar that's shown on the drawing? Yes or no? Yep. So that's one of those things you have to really know, like, how are you going to buy the job and maybe your coverage. I think as long as, from a GC perspective, if you're subbing, these scopes out for the most part, you just want to have enough information to verify that they picked up everything and didn't leave it out. And also, if they did leave it out, then maybe you have to go back and then quantify it. But if I know ahead of time, I'm just going to do a square foot on the block, period. Because the rest of the detail is really a yes or no. So if I wanted to come back in here and say, let's take off the stem wall now. We'll have to double check what the height that is, but we'll go back and double check. For now, I'm just put 3 foot, and it's 8-inch block. We have the length, the square footage. It's division 4. Let's make it a different color, green, and let's put crosshatch on it. So now I'm doing this. Now see how it kind of came off? I can click on it and move it if I want to make sure it's in the right location. Can barely see that. Let's make it a different color.
So the first part we got that was in the orange color was the footer.
Yes, that was the footing.
Now this is that cell.
Yep.
Three blocks coming up.
Yep, exactly. You catching on, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out a little bit more.
You couldn't have built this out of the same element with the footer? Or
No,
they're different?
they're different. Think about it. Like you well two things, two reasons no. This is masonry and it's a different trade. Sometimes with homes, sometimes you can find a mason that will also do concrete. But commercial, they almost always gonna be separate. But with residential, sometimes you can find a mason that does concrete or vice versa. So now we have the stem wall. And then if we wanted to do this last turn down edge footing, TE8, it's going to should be like a 8x8, I think. 8x8. I wish we had a section here because right now it's showing the block. Yeah, it has to be here because we're actually lower. We're actually lower than the slab. So some kind of way we need to create either an allowance or something for the rest of the steps that's not showing. So I would probably just do a count item. Undo. I probably would just do a count item for the rest of the steps. I need to get rest of this concrete. So what you can do it a couple different ways. You can just say step count, and click here and then the one in the rear, or you can just take off a square footage. You can do a couple ways. Just make sure you got enough money to cover it in there. But for the most part, we've done the foundation. That's it. So I know some of you all were asking about trusses. I would just take, again, I'm going to just take the overall square footage for trusses. If you are a truss company, I will come in here and do a count for each truss, because you're going to factor how many trusses you can install in a day and what your crew size is. So now you're getting into the details. Well, I'm a GC. I'm hiring all that out. So I'm just going to take it off by square foot. Okay. I'm going to do the perimeter. because I'm gonna probably have edge board, 1x4 or whatever. Sometimes you may have to supply that separately because that doesn't come with the truss package. Any of your what they call it, bracing, your 2x4 bracing that you have to put in here, you need to look at the truss design. I think that was on the first page, but you have to look at the truss design to see if you have any additional bracing that you have to put in here to brace the trusses. They show the cross bracing, but if there's lateral, there it is. It's up there. I'll go back up once I do this. So this says 2x4 lateral bracing at underside of top cord. So you have the trusses that's running north and south. So you have to run at the top cord of that truss. You have to run a 2x4 and nail it all the way across from one end to the other. So now, though this is shown here on this set of drawings, what happens is you get something called shop drawings. So there's an actual engineering provided by the truss manufacturer. You have to install it per the truss manufacturer, not necessarily the structural drawing. So if you have a conflict of things that you think, hey, this, I'm not sure which one to go by, you can always ask the engineer for questions through an RFI, but your rule of thumb, you're going by the shop drawings, okay? Because the person that manufactured the trusses, they put separate engineering together normally for that. So now we see how much square footage of roof trusses we have. So just because, like, I have, go ahead.
This, kind of back to those F1s. See this thick line that's going through?
Mm-hmm.
There's one at the top and one at the bottom. It has those, it's called out with these numbers to the side. What is that?
It looks like that's the, right, with the footing. It's probably, it looks like some type of girder truss. Yep, that's exactly what it is. So you see where it says 2-ply girder truss?
Yes.
I don't know why that's necessary, but you see how they change the direction of the framing? Most likely, this engineer suspects that you need, because this is changing, you need that support. So a girder truss can hold up more weight. So because that girder truss holds up more weight, it's probably heavier. That's why they made us pour 3 cells over here, which transfers down to the footing, the separate footing. So they're transferring that load down to the footing. So that's why those are here, those 4 are there. Now, what these members mean, I'll have to go look that up. I think that has to do with the weight. But there should be a legend to tell us that. Let's see.
I think it might have to do with the under pressure, or because
It could. Let's see.
I had a question on the stem wall at some point.
Okay. Let's see if it's going to tell us. Yeah, I would have to look that up, Doc, to see what that is. I'm almost sure it's the weight, though. It has something to do with the weights. Yeah, I don't see anything. They got a tie beam up there, too. Okay, what's your question, Ebony?
Can you take off the soil for the stem wall?
You mean the field that's going in there?
Yeah.
Not based on the stem wall. I would do this if I just wanted a separate item. I would just duplicate this, and you can call it the same thing. You can call it field dirt at slab on grade, and we know it was 2 foot 2 inches. And then we need the cubic yards. We don't really need perimeter. Division 2. That's what I would do. So we have that condition. So
what does it calculate for cubic yard?
yeah. So
What does it calculate?
you asking what the quantity is?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so I need to assign something to it first. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna copy, and then I'm gonna paste this, and then I'm gonna right click. Let me see. I need to assign it. Hold on. I should be able to right click and assign it. It don't want to let me do that. Let me try something else. Normally you can reassign it to this field here, so you don't have to take it off again. But give me a second. Let me see if it's something else I can do. Nope. That's not the one I want. This one. I'm not seeing it. So normally you can just copy and move it over, but whatever, it looks like I would have to take it off again, but you shouldn't have to. But basically we know, for instance, we have about 3,000 square feet, and it's 2 foot 2 inches deep. Let me just do it here for real quick. So if I had 2 foot 2 inches, and let me remove this one, it would be 126 yards roughly. Actually, it would be 111 to be precise. So 111 yards of dirt. Then we'll have to put the dirt here too. So I think that was right, 126. Yeah, 126 will be the actual number.
Is there a calculation for accounting for compaction, or do you just add a certain amount?
So you would add, depending on what, now you're getting into advanced estimating. So depending.
I'm asking because I lost a lot of money on a stem wall because
What?
I didn't.
Well, I mean, honestly, compaction depends on the type of field you have. Okay, so you would have to get that information from the place where you're getting the dirt. Okay, normally compactions can be 10 to 15% compaction rate. So yeah, you would add a waste of 10 to 15% on here. You know, so it depends on what kind of sand you have, because all sand doesn't compact the same. Yeah. But normally the wherever you're getting your dirt from, unless you buying it off somebody private property, normally they'll tell you wherever borrow pit you get it from, they'll tell you the anticipated compaction rate, because they check for moisture, they check for, you know, what they call the silt size and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So again, so to your point, again, you're looking at a certain level of detail for that. I would still use my 126 cubic yards of quantity. I would just make sure my price covered my unit rate. So instead of figuring, 20 bucks a yard just to haul, haul and transfer that field, maybe I'm figuring 30 bucks a yard, and that's going to cover whatever compaction I need. So, I mean, you can go either way, however you want to do it. If you just want to add the waste on there, you can do it that way too. Either way works. You just want them, you're an estimator at this point. You're estimating, not exactomating. So, you want to make sure that you have it covered. So you can do it either way. But the right way per se would be to actually figure out from the borrow pit what's the compaction on all of this. And they should know. Usually they can give you a cut sheet that'll tell you that too. Okay, y'all. So it's 3 o'clock. We done takeoff. I want to make sure we do transfer and takeoff. Want to make sure we're covering that. So when we're talking about transfer and takeoff, remember we have our takeoff numbers here. So if you just want to print a report, you can just print this, right? You can do a print preview. So I always have a rule of thumb. I always PDF this for the file. So if my project manager or whoever needs it, they can go to it. I also go to my drawing pages and I will print. Wow, that's pulling up. I will also preview this as well. And range, you can say pages with takeoff or current view. It will only do one page at a time. If you say pages with takeoff, so right now it looks like I have 2 pages with takeoff on it. So now I'm going to print this to a PDF and say this, Doc, this is what I did for you.
Okay.
So that way, you can see the legends up here. That way, there's always a paper trail to how we got the certain numbers or whatever. Now, if you want to price it in this worksheet, this is where you could do that. Normally, it should be basing it off quantity 1. So if I wanted to say, hey, what's my sub number for the concrete slab? Let's just say it's $10 and $10 a square. The 4-inch, let's say 15. Sidewalk, let's say 15. Field dirt. Oh, we didn't take off anything. I think we changed something. But whatever, you all get the point. I can put all this in my sub number for all of these different numbers. So here I have to kind of back into it because it's always going to figure off quantity 1. Now let's say you say, well, Michael, I don't want to put in the unit prices based on linear footage. I want to do it off of the quantity of cubic yards. What you can do is go back in here and change the order of this. Let me show you what I mean by that. So right here we had the order square footage then cubic yards. Well, maybe I want to price it off this first and then make this second, so I still see that actual unit. Then I just change the order. See that? Now I just change the order, so now I go in here and say, well, this is probably $500 a yard. Boom. Whatever. You can do it like that. This is the best way. It's probably unrealistic, but let's just say it's 400. So you can do it that way, right? We know this yardage is bumped up because I changed the height. Let's change this back 4-inch. So that's probably the actual closer number. So that's how you can use this to price. You can export this by going to File, then Export the Takeoff file. When you click Export the Takeoff file, it's going to export it to a CSV. So let's put it here and let's name it Day 6. So when I open Excel, it was on the desktop. Y'all remember where I put it? I forgot that quick. I think I put it on the desktop, right? Let's put it somewhere else where I can actually find it. File, export to takeoff file. Yes, let's put it where I can actually find it. Let's put it in documents. Let's say day 6. I go back to Excel, documents. Where is it at? Day 6. I guess I gotta figure out where I'm saving it at. Try this one more time. Alright, let's see if this is gonna work. So now you see it's in Excel. I have my quantities. So this is where you can either do one or two things. You all still with me?
Yep.
You can do one or two things. You can come in here, copy and paste. I would first get rid of this cell because you don't need it. I would copy and paste, this and put it into an actual template estimate, or I just create one on the fly. And some of you all are not familiar with using Excel that well, but once you get used to it, it becomes very common practice. So I have bid package, description, quantity, so these I'm probably not going to use, or I can move them. You can just cut them, put them somewhere else for later, right? And maybe here I'm gonna have your sub price, and that will be sub unit price, and then total price. So notice this is a lot more work because now I got to build formulas and everything. So I'll know it's going to be the unit price times whatever the quantity is. Then I'm going to format these cells, the dollar sign, to make sure it's going to do dollar signs. Then I'm going to copy, Control C, drag this, Control V to paste it down. Then if I want to sum everything, auto sum. I'm going to sum everything above the line. So as I come in here and put numbers in here, whatever it is, right, y'all get the point. Let's just say it was 126. Oh, it was 126 cubic yards. 35 bucks. Right, I'm going to just kind of keep on going down. So now we realize that, hey, What about general conditions, general requirements? We've been talking about this all week. Insurance, bond if necessary, overhead. I showed you all that as well, how to calculate overhead, your overhead percentage, your profit. Boom. So if you want to use percentages over here for these, I normally put a percent. Make sure you format it first. You can even put percentage on conditions and general conditions, but I don't like to do that. I prefer to actually figure out exactly what I need. So you all can use my template if you want to figure out general conditions, meaning your staff, portalets, all of that, and you can just figure out what that is. Let's just put in here just for discussion's sake.
And your contingencies and
Yep, good point. So let's do that. You want to add a contingency? I like it. Yeah, I like smart people, man. Great day. I like smart people. Contingency, if you want to put that in there, I would do the same thing. So you can either make it a percentage or a dollar amount, whatever. So let's just put 2%. My overhead, I figured that out. I know what that is. Let's say it's 8, and I want to make 15%. All right. Normally, you want to, your insurance should be on the total. So I'm going to show you all something, and I hope it doesn't confuse you. But normally it's on the total. This is going to be the total, grand total. So what I did was, I did my insurance based on the total of the job. Now what's going to happen is going to do like a reoccurring formula. And I'm going to show you, you're going to see what's going to happen. Now my bond is usually the same way. You do equal sign, you grab that cell, the star times the total. It's going to do the same thing. My contingency is usually on my cost of work. Alright, some of y'all mighty quiet out there. I don't hear nobody. I know I'm moving. Alright. Okay, my contingency is normally on my cost of work. Usually I don't need a contingency on stuff I really know the number for. Okay, my overhead is usually on my cost of work. And the same thing with, sometimes people want to build profit on this stuff. They say, hey, I want profit on everything. Well, if that's the case, you can do it that way. Some private clients and some government clients will not allow you to put profit on this. So you have to just understand how they view things, okay? What cell is that? H21. Alright. So now auto sum, and we wanted to grab the cost of work and everything else here. Now, this is what I was talking about. You will get this error message anytime you have a circulating formula. Why? Because I'm trying to sum everything, but I also told the insurance to multiply their percentage by the sum. Just say okay. Now you're going to see this line that happens, right? And it says, hey, I can't do the math. What you have to do is go to, see if I can get it right the first time. File, go to File. Boy, I'm teaching. This boy teaching. This some real teaching here. Go to File, then go to Options. Okay, once you're in Options, go to Formulas, and then enable interactive calculations. Now, what that means is going to allow it to continue to keep on calculating until it finals out. So you always want that checked if you ever have that problem. Boom. Now look. There we go. Anybody here hurting? right? So listen, I've been doing this a long time, so it's easy for me. But basically, you know the steps, you know the principles. If you are looking to price these things, you're just gonna pull and export it into Excel, and you're gonna just drop it in. Really, really simple. You just need to make sure you have all the items accounted for. And we've been talking about that during class. You also have my estimate template. Okay? So you can do that. So if you're trying to do something hot and quick, use my estimate template where I have where you can say yes and no if the scope is covered by a sub or not. So you would use something like this for like a phase 2 estimate where you're just trying to put together a rough cost. When you're hard bidding, you probably want to use the detailed estimate template I provided for you so you can actually say, hey, yes, we received a bid. I don't need to carry my number. I'm going to carry the sub's number. So an example is kind of what we talked about during the week, right? Same thing, same process. You all see it's the same format. We have takeoff items. We had a unit cost. We had a total. Well, what happened? I received the sub number. So I have this column where I can say yes or no that in sub included this item. I put a Y in there and it pulls their number. So wherever I see they included everything, if they didn't, I'm going to say no and I'm going to carry my number. Alright, all the way through all the trades. So we can see I didn't get bids on all this, so I carried my number for it all. Okay, so we kind of go through those items, and then I have a tab for the GCs and GRs, so you don't have to think about this, you don't have to guess. I already provided it for you. Kind of a list. To Ebony's point, you have a list, so if you need something, grab it. I just don't have a pre-made list for estimating because there's so many items it could be. Like, I don't even know it's a database out there that even has everything. Even when you buy software, they don't provide you everything. So you literally have to read the drawings. Okay, any questions?
Sir,
Oh, given your many years of experience estimating, I don't know if you've looked at all the plan sheets, but just in general, I don't know if you could generalize, just say a 2,000 square foot home. How long would you say it would take you to estimate a project like that?
So, for instance, right, we were looking at this house, what was it? Probably about 1,600 square feet. Let's go to the sheet. So, I mean, how long did it take me? I mean, I'm teaching. You know what I'm saying? So, how long did it take me to figure that stuff out? You know, I'm teaching though. Let's see. We didn't do like the walls. We,
Epiphany.
right. I mean, but give me a second. I'm gonna go to the floor plan. For a house this size though, a takeoff probably would only take me maybe 2 hours for the takeoff to do the full estimate. It depends on what's in it. Like if I have to call around to get numbers and all that, it's easy a day. Um, if I'm just putting my plug numbers on it based on kind of my experience, yeah, I probably can do it in a half a day. Yeah. Like Doc's job, when I looked at his restaurant, um, You know, that whole process for me was about 6 weeks, and that was because mostly because of trying to get subs to be it. The actual takeoff, I don't know how long it took me to take it out because I worked on it multiple days. Um, it was all of a week, if not more. And that, I mean, the building was small, but the site was a beast. So if I wanted to see, let's just look at all the pages with takeoffs. It's 23 pages with takeoff. So it probably took me mm, probably a couple of days to do the takeoff, and probably at least a week to do just the pricing. And then the other time was just calling subs back and forth. It was a headache trying to call subs, get them the price, go through scope, confirm they had the right things in their scope. All of that. That was more time than anything. Um, so we can see the pages that I had takeoff on, and this is way more detailed than a house. So I say a house, I would think probably in a half a day. If I have to do a lot of, and that's just for internal takeoff and estimate, it would take probably another 2 to 3 days just to call subs, follow up with subs, if not a week. Because that's where all your time is doing that. You know, I would say filling out your bid tabulations when you get here where you now, let's say you have bid tabs and you know you have multiple subs. I think I showed you all Jones. I don't think I have it open. When I showed you all Jones High School, this was yesterday. When I showed you all this, like putting together this though, it's all of 6 weeks, easy, all day. Putting this together, easy, all day, 6 weeks, and you talking about 3 people working on it, easy, 6 weeks. Yeah. So it really depends, but hopefully I answered your question. I kept going on and on. But you know, when you putting all together all these bid tabulations and scoping all these subs out, yeah, it probably was longer than 6 weeks. I'm sure we worked on it probably at least 10, if not 12 weeks. Okay, y'all. I hope that was helpful. We've been on here almost 2 hours. I hope that was helpful.
Time went by fast though.
It went by fast, my brother.
It didn't go by fast. The week went by fast. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You said you're gonna have a survey for us to do. Is that gonna be emailed to us?
It should have already been emailed around 1 o'clock. Should have been. I can double check, but that's what I set it up for, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you all. If you could do those surveys, it really helps. It helps me. It helps other people. um, it really does. And if you need any additional support, make sure to email me or reach out, and we'll get you the support you need as well. I'll drop my email in the chat. If you didn't purchase the course and you're looking at getting the entire course, I'll drop that link in here as well. And then we also have the PM Insight Super course, which goes through the entire management process from start to finish. So that is just as exhaustive. The one thing I'm glad that we were able to do in this process, not only am I teaching you all how to do these things, but you get the documents as well. And that, to me, that alone is worth the money you pay. Because trying to create these from scratch when you don't know what you're doing, and to be able to have a guide is huge. So I'm going to drop the link in for the estimating ProCourse if you need that. And I'm also going to drop in the link for the PM Plus Site Super ProCourse If you really need to know and understand the entire construction process from start to finish, dealing with your clients, setting up meetings and having what we call OAC meetings, owner, architect, contractor meetings, and knowing how to lead those meetings, how to do RFIs, how to process submittals, how to review them, stamp them, send them out, track them on a log. All of these different elements of how you manage a project, I teach you literally everything. So I want to make sure that you get that help and that you're prepared. You know, I want more of our uh, community to advance and excel to do large projects, and you need the experience. So everything I teach, I'm giving you exposure and experience to how the pros do it. Okay, so this is the standard. No matter what construction company you go, you're going to see them. If they're professional, they're going to do it like this. So hopefully this will help you all. All right. Any final questions before we wrap up? Was this helpful? Was this extremely? All right. I hadn't heard from Tamara or Andrea yet, so I'm not sure. I'm just checking. Any major takeaways from today versus rest of the week? Any major takeaways? All right. Well, I'll go ahead and pray out as my normal practice as we close out this session, day 6, the bonus day. I feel like it was a regular day almost. It was good. I hope everybody learned from it. Father, we just say thank you for this opportunity to continue to explore this trade, this skill called estimating. I pray, God, that you touch each and every person that's on this call, those that may watch this replay, that you will continue to expand their vision to pursue more work, that you'll give them favor, you'll give them opportunities to increase in their business and to grow their business. And I pray, God, that you continue to bring the right support around them, the right staff, the right resources, and that they will succeed. And I just say thank you for continuing to give them strength and blessing them in each and every endeavor. And we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, you guys. Bless you all. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
All right.